Vajradara sumati monisha samekama Uta vardani shri bhadra vasa manya sarva siddhi hum Omo a guru Vajradara sumati monisha samekama Uta vardani shri bhadra vasa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Kama Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Kama Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Kama Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Akyukye Kudhandaki Dagi jinsa give sonamki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chuda choge chonamla janchu pardo dani kyapsochi Dagi jinsa give sonamki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chuda choge chonamla Janchu pardo dani kyapsuchi, dagi jinso give sonamki, Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupal Sho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yal haye ke da ludan ne jin ke druda da mi ke nam dam druwa kun ke dhanama che tsampa tam che ke tu da ki che ten. So, when we relate to something, as we were saying this morning, when there is a symbol and we attribute the meaning to that symbol, and slowly we nourish that symbol with meaning, this meaning has two aspects, a more conceptual part and a more emotional part. Okay. So when we go through different experiences and we have gratitude or fear or anything connected to a certain image, connected to a certain meaning, when we reconnect to that, it brings us back to that emotions also. Okay. So one of the important aspects is that in long time, masters were looking for ways how to help us to develop awareness and how to generate certain states of consciousness. Because one of the difficult aspects is that we can talk a lot about things. We can generate a lot of understanding and concepts. And it's nice, but it's far from being enough. We can debate for hours about the importance of compassion and about what is wisdom and about how to develop generosity. And we can debate for hours and hours about all different types of virtues and so on, which is wonderful. But this will not make us necessarily more virtuous persons. Being an expert about compassion doesn't mean that I am more compassionate. Being an expert about patience doesn't mean that I am more patient, and so on. Okay, expert in the point of view of explaining and understanding conceptually. So something that has been understood already a long time ago is that understanding is useful, but it's far from being enough. So how can we do to actually go beyond understanding? What can we do to bring something from a conceptual to a non-conceptual level? And one of the methods that has been developed since Buddha's teachings and has been kept and evolving during all the centuries is the methods through the use of visualization and imagination. And if we look from a more, modern perspective, what happens is that when we imagine something to our mind, is it as if we were going through the actual physical situation. So imagination is extremely powerful. Okay? I don't want to go into details on this right now, but there have been different studies and so on showing that when we imagine something, it brings ourselves through that experience. Just one example, a nice one. There are many negative ones, but one nice one. One doctor, her father has been a psychiatrist for a long time, and he developed one technique. And she said that her father, he didn't have like a scientific explanation of why. She went after to look for a scientific explanation. But his technique was that whenever he needed to do couple therapy, the first thing that when the couple arrived, normally a couple goes for therapy when things are not going very well, right? I think it's quite rare that a couple, when in the best moment between them, they go for therapy. This means, oh, we must keep this good moment, let's do therapy. I don't think this happens, right? So normally the couple goes for therapy when the moment that things are not going well. So what he would do is that the first moment that the couple arrived, the first thing he will tell them, okay, before we start with anything else, can you both tell me how you met? Normally it was something good, right? Okay, in a rare cases it was something bad, but most of the cases when a couple meets in the beginning and the relationship starts, it's something pleasurable, it's something nice. And what he would say that when people start telling the story of how they met and so on, this will take away that initial tension and will create a good place for them to be able to open dialogue. And his daughter, that is also a doctor, she made some research about this technique, and her explanation was that whenever we remember something good, our system reacts as if we were experiencing that experience once again. So when we remember something positive of the past, how we met or whatever, naturally we will develop oxytocin. So we will start feeling well. It's like we go through that experience once again through our memory. And then this naturally creates a state of well-being, which is a basis for dialogue and everything that comes after. Okay? So when we go back in our memory with good things, it can be remembering the past or projecting in the future. It's like if we were actually in that situation. And our whole system, physical and mental, react to it. The same thing is if we remember something really bad and we imagine being in a terrible situation, our whole system reacts to it also. Okay? So, one of the main key points used by Vajrayana Buddhist practice is visualization. It's imagination. So we imagine positive aspects in order to gradually familiarize ourselves with them in a non-conceptual level. And it has been seen for centuries the power of imagination, the power of visualization. It's something that has been there already since long time. Okay. But when I visualize something, what makes that visualization, that imagination even more powerful is the meaning that it's together, the value that is attributed to that image and to that experience. So when we have a symbol, when this symbol, it's not something conceptual, but there are emotional aspects together with it, when I connect myself to that symbol, it would generate that feeling inside of me. You know? Making a very mundane example, some people, for example, have a very strong nationalistic view. When seeing the flag of their own country, they generate different types of emotions and thoughts. And if they imagine their flag or they see their flag of their country being burned, naturally they will generate other types of emotions and thoughts and so on. Okay? And we are full of symbols in our lives. So the part of self-healing, as I said this morning, is actually nourishing these symbols with meaning. Okay? So we saw the 5 defilements and the 5 antidotes, basically. Okay, it's not exactly 5, because we have fear, jealousy, and envy in the secret chakra, green color, which is already 3. Okay? But mainly the 5 colors. Okay? Then there is another 2 aspects which we just enlisted them briefly this morning, which I would like to go slowly into some details, which is the other aspects which are represented by the 5 colors and the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and so on, are what are called the 5 aggregates and the 5 wisdoms. Okay, and one of the reasons for this, it's for us to understand what means to be a Buddha. No? We started saying, many of us, we may have the dream, I want to be a Buddha, but what does it mean to be a Buddha? And we did that sort of Buddhist advertisement, no? Thinking, imagining it. And actually, when we think about the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and we start understanding, it already starts to give us a more clarity. So we already think about, 5 colors, we have the different defilements and the different antidotes. So we start already imagining, how would I be if there would be no more ignorance and there would be wisdom? If there would be no more hatred and then there would be love and compassion and altruism. No more miserliness but generosity. No more attachment but satisfaction. No more fear but courage. And no more jealousy but rejoicing. How would I be in this way? Okay? With this we already start understanding a little bit better what it means to be a Buddha. One part which helps a lot is the 5 wisdoms. So, let's see. The first wisdom, we can start, if we look here, where do we start? Okay, we start by the green color, which is secret chakra. The first color, the green color, Amoghasiddhi, it refers to what is called the all-realizing wisdom. Okay. The all-realizing wisdom, Chadrupki Yeshe in Tibetan, it means on the basis, what we have now is our capacity, is the part of our mind which makes decisions and say, I want to do this, I don't want to do that, go to the right, go to the left, wake up, stand, sit down, whatever. Okay, all the decisions that we make, there is a part of us which directs ourselves for action, for doing things, for interacting. So this is basically this part of the mind which interacts with action. And this, on the basis, is the fact that we do many things, but we still have many doubts. No? Doubt is the fact, I do this, or I don't, or I do that, or better to do, or better not to do. We have all these uncertainties. And this uncertainty is the fact of not having this wisdom well developed. This part of our mind well developed, it means that there is no more doubt, there is no more uncertainty. Whenever we do something, we are fully sure that that's the best for ourselves and others. So now I would say that sometimes we don't have the all-realizing wisdom, but maybe the all-doubting wisdom. And we are, I go, don't go, do, don't do, how this, like that. Okay, so the more we develop that part of our mind, the more we have no doubt, no uncertainty. And this is related to Buddha Amoghasiddhi. Okay, green color Amoghasiddhi means developing the capacity to make choices with certainty, developing the capacity to act without any fear, without any uncertainty. Okay, and this is one first thing which means a lot. The second wisdom, which we can go to Buddha Ratna Sambhava, yellow color, is the all equalizing wisdom, or the wisdom of equanimity. And the wisdom of equanimity of the basis is our capacity to see the similarities in things. It's our mind has this aspect of putting things together, of making categories, classifying things. So, for example, I can see all of you and I can say, oh, these are all humans. Yeah, something similar. Then I can divide man and woman, tall and short, Dutch and Italian. I can go on and on finding many different ways how to divide it. Okay, and we can divide groups by short hair, long hair, okay, flat nose, long nose. Okay, we can make all sorts of divisions, and because we find similarities between them. And this is one of the basic aspects that make our mind function. No? Just try to think what would happen if we were not able to see the similarities in things. the mind would have a lot of difficulty functioning. So they all realize that the mind, the wisdom of equanimity fully developed, means that we are able to see the similarities in each and everything. We are able to see that each one of us, not only we are humans, but we can see that we all want happiness and no one wants to suffer. We're able to see that everything and everyone is interdependent, and so on. We can see the similarities. We can put things together into the same category. And this actually, it's quite an important aspect. The next wisdom, which is called the wisdom of discernment, red color Buddha Amitabha, it refers to our capacity to see the differences. It's like the opposite of the wisdom of equanimity. I can see, oh, you are all humans, but one is like this, the other one is like that, you have this specific characteristic, that specific characteristics. Is being able to see the specific characteristics of each and every one. Okay? And this is the wisdom of discernment, is that's where we give name to things, where we are able to discern one from the other. So on one side, we see the similarities and we put things together. On the other side, we see the differences and we see the specific characteristics of each one. So the more we develop these qualities, the more we are able to do these two things together. And one is not taking away the other. At the same time, I can see that we are all with the same needs. We are all humans. We all suffer. We all want to be happy. We are all guided by our own ignorance and wisdom and so on. But then each one of us have our own very specific characteristics. Okay? And this is the other part of the mind. So these two aspects, they need to go together. So the more this mind is developed, the more we are able, more this aspect of the mind is developed, the more we are able to go deep and see the very small details of each and every one. Okay. The next one, which we can go to the white color, is called the mirror-like wisdom. The mirror-like wisdom is our capacity to perceive more than one thing at the same time. So imagine a mirror, and when we look, how many objects can the mirror reflect at the same time? Many, no? It depends how clean is the mirror. Okay. Similar to that, how many objects appear to our mind at the same time? From our five senses. A lot, actually. Once I read, I don't know how much it's correct or not, but it doesn't make much difference, that in every second, the brain receives around 2 billion inputs, and we are aware of around 2,000 inputs. So, even if the numbers are not exactly precise, in a general idea, we can see that we receive much more input than what we are actually able to be aware of. So let's say that the mirror-like wisdom fully developed means being aware of all the inputs that we receive. This would be a more fully developed mirror-like wisdom. Right now, we have like a little dirty mirror wisdom, in the sense that we can see, but not everything can be reflected, and it's very strongly conditioned by our own emotions and so on. So in the mind of a Buddha, it's a mirror-like wisdom fully developed. This is white color Buddha Vajrasattva. Blue color heart chakra Buddha Kshubhya, it's what is called the Dharma Dhatu wisdom. Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the basis, it means our own mind with the defilements, with ignorance, with jealousy, with envy, and so on. And the Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the result, it's the mind without the defilements. It means the defilements such as anger and jealousy and fear, they are not of the nature of the mind. The mind can be there with them or without them. It's like if I take a crystal and the crystal is dirty, the fact that there is dirt around the crystal doesn't change the nature of the crystal. When I take away the dirt, the crystal is always a crystal. When I put the dirt, the crystal remains a crystal. So our mind with the mental defilements is the Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the basis. Our mind without the defilements is the Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the result. Okay? So,
Lama, can you say one time more?
our mind
Yes.
with defilements, ignorance, attachment, hatred, and so on, is the Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the basis.
Yeah.
The mind without the defilements is the Dharma Dhatu wisdom of the result of a Buddha. So when we think, okay, so how is the mind of a Buddha? Let's try to put the 5 wisdoms together. The mind of a Buddha has no doubt about any action, no uncertainty. Is able to have a common view about everything, put things into the same category together. So there is no dangers of falling into biased views about or in favor of one against other. It's able to see the nature of reality. It has a correct discernment. At the same time, is able to see the specific characteristics of each and every one. So it's like looking at all the people, seeing what everyone has in common, but at the same time also allowing to see the specific characteristics of each one. One example of this is, for example, parents with many children. One of the important things of parents with many children is that on one way they need to be equal to all. On the other way, they need to be able to recognize the specific characteristics of each one. And it's not obvious to be able to do that. There are some families that I know that they always give a lot of importance that they need to do the same to all the children. So do one thing to one, do the same thing to all. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's not. It's not fair for the other one. So, for example, I have one friend, and he had many brothers and sisters. I think they were all together 8 or more. There were many. And he said that his father was a person very busy. He worked a lot. But still, all the children always kept the feeling that they had a lot of time with the father. So they asked, what was the key element there? The father would at home always treat everyone as equals, but he would have every week or every 2 weeks, he would find a moment just to do something special with each one of them. So 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours, half a day, whatever, they had the time only 1-to-1. So if one of them liked music, they would do something connected to music. If the other one liked football, they would do something together about football. They would do something specific to their own needs. So all of them felt that they have been seen. And not one in the favor of, against the favor of the other. They were all on the same way, but at the same time adapted to their own specific needs. Okay. And when we look this in a very large scale, that's the mind of a Buddha. When relating to others, has the capacity to see what is equal, but at the same time to see the specific characteristics of each one, to see each one. And that's really important, especially if we want to help others, we need to be able to see each one. We cannot treat everyone the same way. Equanimity doesn't mean to do exactly the same thing to everyone. It means to adapt ourselves with the same intention to everyone, but to adapt to the needs and capacities of each one. This is important. So, the Buddha have this capacity towards sentient beings and towards reality as a whole. At the same time, Buddha has no doubt about what is what. There is fully developed discernment, clarity about how to name things, how to relate to things. The mind of a Buddha have clarity about everything that appears, the mirror-like wisdom, so we call the omniscience. There are different types of omnisciences. In this case, the omniscience, it refers to the fact that a Buddha mind, have clarity of perception to everything that appears to his or her senses. So everything that appears to the sense of a Buddha, Buddha is aware of. And that's already a lot. Okay. And the mind of a Buddha is free of defilements. Okay. So, with this, we start slowly to be able to paint the image of what is to be a Buddha. Oh, if I would like to become a Buddha, this means, okay, I will have no more doubts. I will be able to relate to everything and everyone, putting together what the similarities and the specific characteristics. I will have clarity of perception. I will be free from defilements. Okay? And I mean, that's already a lot. But we start slowly depicting what it means to be a Buddha. Okay? So, is it more or less clear, the 5 wisdoms? All realizing wisdom, wisdom of equanimity, wisdom of discernment, mirror-like wisdom, and the Dharma-Datta wisdom. Okay? On top of that, there is another very important thing, which is, who am I? What am I? And when we come to see our own identity, there is the basis of imputation of the self, and we are made basically of 2 things, which is body and mind. So there is more than we have a body, we are made out of body and we are made out of mind. And one of the very important parts is our own identity. Who am I? And part of our identity is actually based, our identity is imputed, is based on our body and mind. So understanding what are the aspects that create ourselves. So in one way, it would be enough to say, okay, there is body and there is mind, and we are made of the 2. And we have an identity which is projected on body and mind. But if we go deeply, Buddha explained that there are 5 aspects. Mind is divided into 4 aspects. And someone would say, but wouldn't it be enough just to say body and mind? Not really, because for us, our own identity is often projected into different aspects of our mind. Okay, so the mind is basically divided into 4 parts, which we call the aggregate of form, which is the body, first of all. Then we have the aggregate of discernment, the aggregate of sensation, the aggregate of compositional factors, and the aggregate of consciousness. And this all form the mind. So, Buddha Vairochana, white color, is the aggregate of form, which means the body. Then, Buddha Akshobhya, blue, we have the aggregate of consciousness. Consciousness means our own mind and the flow of thoughts and emotions. That's the aggregate of consciousness. Then we have the green color, is the aggregate of compositional factors. To explain better the difference between the 2, in Italy I give the example of food. In Holland we can give the example of flower. Let's say we have a flower bouquet, okay? So many beautiful flowers there. So we have, you see a bouquet, like here in front, okay? You have a flower bouquet. So you have the flower bouquet, okay? But the flower bouquet itself is made of different flowers. Okay. And the bouquet doesn't exist independently of the flowers. Each and every flower is basically what composes the bouquet. It's like if you make a food dish, there is the ingredients. There is, let's say we do pasta, there is the pasta, there is the tomato, there is the oil, there is the salt, there are the different ingredients. So in anything, the actual thought, the actual emotion and thought is we call the aggregate of consciousness. The different aspects that compose that thought, that emotion, all together are called the compositional factors. Are all the different factors that compose that thought. So we could say the bouquet is one thing, but it's composed by each of the different flowers. Okay? So, when we go to study this in a more detailed manner, the consciousness, or it's called the primary mind, and the compositional factors are called the 51 mental factors. And it's like any bouquet must have some basic flowers. So every thought must have, every consciousness must have at least 5 different mental factors. There is sensation, there is discernment, and so on. Okay? There is contact, there is intention, there is attention. These are the 5 omnipresent mental factors that are always there. So, we have aggregate of form, body, aggregate of consciousness, which is the primary mind itself, it's the thoughts and emotions, the mind itself. Then we have the aggregate of compositional factors, which are all the different aspects that compose the mind. And then there is the aggregate of sensation and the aggregate of discernment. And here comes a question. Sensation and discernment are both compositional factors. So why we need to put them aside and give particular importance to them? Because it would be enough to talk about body and mind, and if we need to understand better the mind, maybe it would be enough to say that we have the primary mind, which is the thought or emotion itself, and then there are the aspects that compose it, so-called compositional factors. For instance, sensation and discernment are already a compositional factor. So why do we talk again about sensation and discernment? And here Buddha explains that even though sensation and discernment are already part of the compositional factors, because most of the conflicts that we experience come out of attachment to discernment or the attachment to sensation. For example, how many things we do out of attachment for pleasure and out of aversion for suffering? Quite many, no? That's sensation. And it is said that when someone is able to go beyond the attachment to sensation, they still have a strong attachment to, this is my idea. This is how I see it. That's the attachment to discernment. My view, my perception, what I see, what this is, what is not, is our own perception of reality that we grasp at it as being the actual reality. Okay? So most of the tensions and the conflicts that exist, they come out of these 2 attachments. On one side, there is very strong attachment to sensation. On the other side, very strong attachment to discernment. What I think, how I perceive reality. That's the real one. Just think, how many times you enter into a fight with someone because you had a different view than the other person? Did it ever happen? Yes, no? Yes, no? And why? Okay, you think differently, and so what? No, I am right. Okay, and we can go on and on for hours and years about it. Okay. So because of this, Buddha put special emphasis that we need to have awareness of our sensation. We identify ourselves within our sensation, and we identify ourselves within our ideas, our projections, our so-called discernment. Okay. So when we talk about what is the basis of the self, we are made of body and mind. And the mind is made of so-called consciousness, which is the primary thoughts, which basically is the mind that perceives what we see, what we listen, what we touch, what we smell, what we taste, and our mental thoughts, memories, projections of the future, and so on. And then there are all the ingredients that compose it. Inside there is sensation, there is discernment, there is attraction, there is aversion, there is love, there is hatred, there is fear. There are so many things that compose them. The Buddha refers to 51 saying that these are just a reference. There are more than 51. But there is a way of explaining 51 to help to understand ourselves better. Okay, and that's a very nice object of study. But another time we could go through that. So, and between this, particular emphasis to sensation and discernment. So we are made out of this. So when we try to understand who I am, who am I, we project an identity of our name, of our identity, and it's based on what? On body, on consciousness, composition of factors, sensation, and discernment. Why they are called aggregates? Because they are not something solid. They are many parts put together in a flow. It's like a process. We are processes. No? There is a difference between an event and a process. An event, it's something specific. A process, it's the union of many specific events. And it's always changing and it's always moving. And our body is a process. Our body is always changing. Our mind, our sensation, our discernment, and all of these are processes. Okay? So basically that's why it is called in Tibetan Pumbo. Pumbo, it's like a heap where things accumulate, one on top of the other. So we have sensation. It's not like one sensation. It's one sensation after the other. It's a flow of sensations. It's a flow of discernment. It's a flow of emotions, of understandings, and so on. Okay? So we identify ourselves, we say I am, on the basis of these 5 aggregates. So right now our 5 aggregates are impure. Our body is unbalanced, our sensations are unbalanced, our discernment is not correct, our consciousness is full of defilements and so on, and the same thing goes to our composition of factors. This is the basis. The 5 daily Buddhas, Buddha Vajrasattva represents the aggregate of form in a pure state. Then we can go around. Akshobhya blue represents consciousness in a pure state. Ratnasambhava is sensation, with yellow color. Amitabha red color, discernment. And Amoghasiddhi green color is composition of factors. Okay? So we can see now, when you look at the colors, can we see different already start to be more rich in me? Okay? So we think blue color, what is coming? Positive side. Love, compassion, patience, stability, aggregate of consciousness, the Dharma Dhatu wisdom. Okay? So we have seen up to now 3 levels, 3 aspects. Defilements or inner qualities with defilements and antidotes, 5 wisdoms and 5 aggregates. Okay? There is one more that we can add, which is also very useful. There are different ways to see this, but they are called the 4 different types of actions. The 4 different types of, let's call action. So, let's say that there is a particular conflict. The first way of dealing with it, it's through the power of pacification, white collar Buddha Vajrasattva. Which means, let's say that you are not well, there is tension, and by bringing a state of peace myself, I am able to pacify that conflict. Okay? So let's say someone is tense, and by being calm, we're able to calm down the situation, for example. Okay? And this is the first level of action that we need to develop, is the capacity of pacifying. Sometimes it is not enough. And the second level is the yellow color, which is increasing. So let's say there is a conflict and I'm trying to pacify and it's not enough. So what is the next step? Let's do something nice together. Okay, maybe we have some nice food, maybe we listen to beautiful music, we go to have a nice walk on the garden, we increase something positive, we find something common in a positive way, and by that it creates the space to pacify. And this is also something, it's very useful to know this, because if there is a particular tension with someone and there is no space to connect and pacify, we need to find a little gap in between where we can connect. And maybe it's through food, maybe it's through music, maybe it's through whatever kind of pleasure or positive thing that we find something that we can connect together. Maybe it's by being kind to that person. There are many ways which we can do. So we increase something positive, and by that we create the conditions to pacify. Okay? This is the yellow color, action of increasing. Sometimes increasing positive aspect is not enough to pacify. We are not able to connect with the other one. Then comes the even stronger action, which is the red color. And there are different ways how to call this. There is a word in English which doesn't come to my mind right now. Anyhow, it's the power of seduction, of influence. So, power of seduction is made of basically two things together, which is, I tell you, look, if you do this, you will get that benefit. But if you don't do, be careful. So there is this double game in seduction. Okay? Which is, if you do it, you will get something really good. If you don't do it, you will get something really bad. So better to do it. So the fourth power is the power of seduction. I'm not anymore finding a positive, a common ground together. I'm not able to pacify. I'm not able to increase something positive between us to find a place to pacify. No able to go into that. So what I do, I enter into a way of seduction. And the seduction can come by promising some really nice things, or by making fear of some really bad things. And these two things comes together. Okay? So it's also called the magnetizing action. Like a magnet that brings attention towards one, brings action towards one. Okay? So this is the red color, third type of action. Sometimes this is not enough. Then we go to the fourth type of action, which is letapo in Tibetan, which we can translate as wrathful action or action of opposition. Let's make an example. Someone is running towards one big hole, how to say that in English? Precipice. Okay, someone is running towards a precipice. Let's say we are in a tall building and the person is running towards the end of the building and will fall down. Or the person is about to drink a glass full of poison. Okay? And we go first and we say, that's not a very good idea. No, maybe better you don't do it. And very calmly we help, and it's not working. Then we try to connect nicely with the person to do something good. We try to give something to the person, connect, not working. Then we say, look, if you drink that glass, you will get so much harm for this and that. But instead, if you don't, you will get this and you will get... We try to seduce, not working. Then what we do? We use strength. We go there and we use our strength to stop the person from drinking the glass. The person is running towards the precipice. We run and we block the person physically. We need to use a strength as strong as the one of the other person, or even more, to stop something that is negative from continuing or happening. Okay, that's called the power of opposition. But these four powers, they are not only related to us towards others, but also us towards ourselves. Okay? We can pacify our bad habits. We can increase something positive aspect in order to go against a bad habit. We can seduce ourselves in order to stop a bad habit. Or we can use force in order to stop a bad habit, for example. Okay. The important thing when using force is that the objective of force is not that of harming, it's that of pacifying. Okay? So this is, and the fifth action is the most difficult one, is the one action that inside there are the four actions. There's one action that can pacify, increase, seduce, and oppose in one. Okay? So when we talk about the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we have Vajrasattva white color, pacify, Ratnasambhava yellow, increase, Amitabha red, seduce, Amoghasiddhi green, oppose, and Akshobhya blue, all the 5 together. So when we look, for example, as many protectors, like for example, when we have the 5 Dorje Shukdins, I'm looking somewhere, we have the image of the 5 there. In the altar there, you have the 5 Dorje Shukdins. Actually, it's one entity. It's just like one have the clothes of the doctor, the other one have the clothes of the firefighter, and they have different functions, you know. So here what we have, in the center we call Dorje Shukden, which is blue color, which is the one doing all the 4 actions together. Then we have Ratna Shukden, which is to increase the positive actions. Then we have the Padma Shukden, which is red in color, to seduce the positive things towards positivity. Then we have the Vajra Shukden, which is the one to pacify negativities, white color. And then there is the Karma Shukden, which is to oppose negativities. You know? They're just manifestations, embodiments of different forms of action. So the 5 Dhyani Buddhas also have these special characteristics. So when we look, for example, the practice of Kurukule, what is the main color of Kurukule? Red. So from the 4 actions, what is the main characteristic of Kurukule? Pacifying? No. Red color? Seduction. Magnifying, no? Power. Okay? Magnetizing power. Seduction. And then when we take a white deity, will be to pacify. Okay? And like this we go on. So there is this the 5 colors. The blue, it represents the union of the 4 in one. And the other ones, each one of these actions. Okay? Again, the colors are connected to directions. So, according to the mandala of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, this can change slightly in different mandalas. But we have at the center Vajrasattva, white. Then at east, Akshobhya blue. South, Ratnasambhava yellow. West, Amitabha red. And then we have green, Amoghasiddhi north. Okay, and okay, no need. No, just one example, man. Like if you go to China, and Chinese Buddhists, normally, what is their way of greeting? No, normally, okay, Ni Hao will be just Chinese language, everyone, but Chinese communists will still say Ni Hao. But what Chinese Buddhists will say? Nobody remember? Come on. Some of you have been to China many times. Amitofo. Okay, you remember?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, they say Amitofo. Amitofo is not a type of tofu. Amitofu is actually the Chinese version of Amitabha. Okay, Amitofu means Amitabha. So they give particular importance to Buddha Amitabha. So when they meet someone, they say, I pay respect to Buddha Amitabha. I take refuge in Buddha Amitabha. Namo Amitofu. Okay. There is even this way of singing. Namo Amitabha, Oi Namo Amitabha. Some of you should remember this. But what happened is that, why so much connection to Buddha Amitabha? Where is Buddha Amitabha site? From the 4 directions? West. Where did the Buddhism come from in relation to mainland China? Southwest. Even Tibet is called Shizang. Shi means west. Okay? So there is the fact that Buddhism was coming from the west, connected to Buddha Amitabha, and this created this whole faith in Buddha Amitabha, which is directly connected to the actual fact of the west, and so on. Is one of the other explanations also there, but this is one of them. So when we talk about the directions, there is this specific relation of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. One nice curiosity, that a direction doesn't exist by itself. This is physics. A direction can only exist in relation to something. Okay? And normally in Buddhist teachings, we always say, where is the east? It's in front of you. So in Tibetan language, for example, when I was in Tashilumpa Monastery and I wanted to go somewhere, they would say, oh, why do you go there? You go to the east, then you turn south. Okay. And I was thinking, where is the sun? But it had nothing to do. Like if we are in the center, east is in the front, south is the right. North is the left. West is the back. Okay. So this is something that in Tibetan language often is like this. So for example, it said, when you make your altar, the altar should always be in the east. East means in front of you. So you don't put the altar there when you are sitting here. You sit looking towards the altar. So the altar is in your own east. So the question is, at what east? The east of the planet, the east of yourself? Is related to where the sun is rising or to where you are personally. Okay. So very often when it talks about you should visualize the Guru at the east. So you visualize the Guru in front of you, not behind and so on. So this is just one curiosity in between. Okay. So for the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we have also the 4 different types of actions, and there are the 5 directions, including the center. And then there is also the relationship with the elements also. But this will open another subject. Okay. Why do we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas in a human shape? Are Buddhas humans? When we think about the Buddhas, do you think you go to Tushita or any pure land and you meet and they're all humans? How can we make sure that Buddha have 2 eyes and 1 nose and they walk with legs? It's like, how to say, we are incredibly self-referential. Okay, so what happened is that this is my perception. The 5 Dhyani Buddhas are manifested in the human aspect because that's what connects to us. Because we are supposed to use this as a method to identify ourselves with these qualities. And I am a human, so it's much more easy for me to connect with it. I don't know if it's clear, this. It's not like, okay, the Buddhas are like this and we are similar to them. It's more like we represent the Buddhas as humans because we ourselves are humans. Okay? And because we use that representation to give form to something that doesn't have a form. Love, compassion, wisdom, satisfaction, the 5 wisdoms, and all of this that we have seen doesn't have a form. But we're giving a form to it, and we shape it in a way where it represents these qualities at their maximum potential. And we call them the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Because when we ask for a description of what are the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, it is said that the 5 Dhyani Buddhas are the manifestations of the 5 pure chakras and the 5 aggregates and the 5 wisdoms of Buddha himself, of a Buddha itself, himself or herself, whatever. Okay, Buddha doesn't have sex, it's not male or female. Okay, so basically we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas as manifestations of these qualities developed in their maximum potential. And for us, it's much more easy to visualize myself, I am Buddha Akshobhya. So in the moment that I am Akshobhya, what am I? Other than being blue in color. And having my right hand glued to the floor. Some of us, we may imagine Akshobhya like this, so Akshobhya cannot be like this. Okay, that's our limited view, but what it means to be Akshobhya? If I imagine I am Akshobhya, can I be nervous and be Akshobhya? Not really. Think about like, I am Lama Gangchen. Can I be selfish and be Lama Gangchen? Not fitting. Can I be very nervous and be Lama Gangchen? Not fitting. Okay. So I am Buddha Akshobhya. What does that mean? I am patience, I am stability, I am love, I am compassion, I am the action that unites the 4 actions within it, I am the pure wisdom of Dharmadhatu, I am the pure aggregate of consciousness. Okay, then I am Buddha Ratna Sambhava, what it means. I see myself as being Buddha Ratna Sambhava. I am Buddha Ratna Sambhava. So, what am I? I am humility, generosity, I am equanimity, pure sensations, okay, the power of increasing, action of increasing. So, we start understanding each one of them, and by seeing ourselves as the Buddhas, this helps us to develop the identity within all the different qualities. And gradually, not only we are able to dream more clearly what is to become a Buddha. A Buddha means I am the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. I am all of them. Okay? So, this is one important part. So in the practice of self-healing, if we look into this image, it was conceived by Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, and the whole practice is there. So we start by the center. There is this image of white in color, and it's Buddha Vajrasattva. And on the 2 sides, there are the elements. Okay? Very small, but you can see there these little drawings on the 2 sides, these little symbols. This represents the elements. So this means that in the very beginning of the practice, we do the purification. Okay? And what it means to do the practice of Vajrasattva. Someone may say, oh, the practice of Vajrasattva is the practice to purify negative karma. Okay. But what does that mean? How we do. If we look at the mantra of Vajrasattva, Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopatishta Dito Mebhava Satokayo Mebhava Supokayo Mebhava Anurakto Mebhava Sarva Siddhi Mebrayaja Sarva Karma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramame Minza Vajrabhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahum Pe, which is the 100th syllable mantra, the main mantra for purification of negative karmic forces. And someone may think, oh, the mantra of purification, it must be something like how bad I am, I did many mistakes, I am very negative, and so on. And actually it is not, it's the opposite. The mantra of purification is how beautiful I am, how wonderful I am. It's actually connecting to our nature. It means the mantra, the essence of the mantra is recognizing my own pure nature. And what is our pure nature? Call here Vajrasattva. Sattva means being. Vajra means indivisible. Being this pure, indivisible, with non-dual being. What it means? It means that our pure nature is that we are interdependent. We exist only in a way based on relations. We do not exist in an autonomous, objective way as something bad or negative and so on. So because we are interdependent, because every action we do make a change, if we act in a coherent way, in a virtuous way, it's possible to become a Buddha. Okay? Now, not entering into details, but it means the first beginning of the practice, Vajrasattva, it means I recognize my own nature as being empty of inherent existence. I recognize that I can become a Buddha. I can transform my mind and my body, my being. I can transform myself in every level. Why? Because I am interdependent. I do not exist in an objective, permanent, independent way. So if I create the right interactions, I can transform it. Okay. And then we do the purification of the elements in the very beginning, which is the part for us to purify our body and consequently our mind on a more gross level in the beginning. It's subtle still, but not very subtle. It's like still on a little bit more gross level. And this is the part that in order for us to meditate correctly, we need to take away all the mental agitation, the mental dullness. We need to bring ourselves to the present moment. There is a minimum inner balance that is necessary to be able to meditate well. Okay? And this is done in the very beginning through the practice of Vajrasattva. We recognize our potential. Through the 5 purification of the elements, we create that basic balance also in the very beginning of the practice. Then we generate ourselves in the aspect of Vajrasattva after the purification of the elements also. So we begin by the purification, we identify our potential, we eliminate the elements. But another aspect which is fundamental here also is that through the elements, we purify the negativity through the elements, but also through the purification of the elements, we generate an inner state of bliss, an inner state of joy. That's the meaning when we do E, Yam, Ram, Lam, Bam. Okay? 2 different meanings. On one way, I purify my elements to create balance of body and mind. By purifying the elements, I allow the energy to flow and I generate an inner state of bliss. And one of the important key points in Vajrayana Buddhism is that we need always to remember, to have on the basis 2 different aspects, which is bliss, love, compassion, together with wisdom, the realization of the nature of reality. Okay? So through the elements we develop bliss. From the state of great bliss we develop ourselves as the deity, as Buddha Vajrasattva, which means we visualize ourselves with a pure body made of light, with all the 5 chakras perfectly balanced, with our central channel very strong. And basically we are identifying ourselves with our own potential of enlightenment. Okay? And even though that's a very specific and it could be very detailed and long part of meditation and practice in self-healing, that's not where Rinpoche gave the main emphasis. Okay? But it's there. And if we go into more details about this, every part of the practice we could get hours and days talking about it, okay? But if we go just in the very beginning, in order for me to see myself, to generate myself as Vajrasattva, that little white image that we see in the very beginning, there is a right way and a wrong way of doing. The wrong way is I, Lama Michel, see myself as Vajrasattva. It's a sort of carnival. Okay? I put up the dress of Vajrasattva. I put up the dress of Tara. Look how cute I am, you know? And then it's like somehow it's not, I am not Vajrasattva. I see myself as Vajrasattva. For example, what is this object? It's not a tricky question. It's a very simple question. What is this? A bell. Everyone agrees that this is a bell, right? Okay. What happens if I say, okay, this object should not be seen as a bell, but it's actually a cup to drink? Can it fulfill the functions of a cup? Yes. But what happens if now I say, from now on, this is a cup? How does it appear to us? As being a cup or a bell that is being used as a cup? How do we see it? A bell used as a cup. Why? Come on, because it is a bell. Okay? So the point is that truly it is not a bell and it is not a cup. It's an object of many parts put together, and depending on the value that we attribute to it, it can be one thing or the other, or both. Okay. In order to see the cup in it, first I need to kill the bell. I need to take away that projection. I need to somehow eliminate the perception of bell in order to be able to develop the perception of cup. Similar to that, as long we have our identity based on this name and on this body and everything connected to this, we have an identity that is very strongly based on our own emotions and the way how we manifest and our physical and mental state right now. So we have this idea that, okay, I am a very sad, depressed, joyful, whatever person. Okay. So how can I generate an identity to say, I am Vajrasattva, I am a pure being? First, we need to die. Okay. Metaphorically. From an imaginary point of view. Okay, it's not part of the sadhana to do suicide. No, just to put things clear. So what we do, one of the first parts of the practice is there actually where we will simulate the process of death. So we imagine our own death, and this is where in the sadhana, after Eyam Ramlambam, before Pamlepema, so if you take the sadhana, you see there is page 6 and page 7, okay? And then if you look carefully, there is something between the two pages, okay? And that's the meditation in the process of death and the self-generation as Vajrasattva. Okay, there is a lot happening in between these two. Okay, but in most of the sadhanas that I've ever seen, there is some things which are explicitly written and things that are not explicitly written. And this is very, very common in most of the meditation sadhanas and so on. And one of the reasons is that we need oral transmission. Another reason is that emphasis is put into different things. But in between these two, exactly, there is the part in which we meditate in the process of death. Okay? So we do the purification of the elements, we generate a state of bliss. Then we can do the mantra Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Swabhava Shuddha Ham. And that's when we do this beautiful meditation in the process of death. For me, it's one of the I like the most. And as I said before, I wanted to give emphasis these days in what is not explicitly written. Okay? What is written is very beautiful, but it's already there. You can read yourself. So, in this moment, what we do is that we will imagine that everything around us dissolves into light. And it's like there are two different examples that are used. One is if we take like a lake and we drop something in the center of the lake, and then it creates this water ripples, no? The water starts going in circles. That's the example that is given when we emanate light. When we emanate, it goes to all the sides and continues to go. In this case, it's the reabsorption. The example is that in the winter time, if we go to the glass and we do like, how do you call that in English? In Tibetan it's called hadap. Ha. Okay? Hadap. So let's say you go and you do like this in the mirror. Okay? So it gets all like foggy. So when the sort of fog in the mirror goes away, which parts fades first? The center or the surrounding? The surrounding and last one, the center. So this is the similar how we do in absorption. So from the surrounding, things starts to fade away. And we will simulate the process of that. So we imagine that first we lose the capacity to perceive what we see. Then we lose the capacity to listen. Slowly, the feeling and connection with the external worlds get more and more far. And everything starts like dissolving into light towards us. Then we lose the capacity to perceive smell, taste, touch. And as we lose contact with the external world, slowly everything dissolves into light, and this light dissolves into our body. Then our subtle body and mind also dissolves until there is nothing more than total darkness. We go through the white light, red light, total darkness, and then from within this total darkness appear a state of light. Okay? This is in very, very few words the process of death. So we simulate that. And as we simulate that in meditation, we allow ourselves to let go the attachment and the identity of our own self that we have now. And if we do it correctly, it's actually, at least for me, a very pleasurable experience. Okay. And then we allow ourselves just to let go. And then out of all of that, it only remains this infinite emptiness full of light. It's an emptiness state of light which there is not me or you, here or there, this or that. There is only this infinite light, infinite emptiness full of light, inseparable of profound great bliss. And I am this state of bliss that is itself empty of autonomous, independent, inherent existence. And we just stay into that state as long as we can. Okay. All of these are specific things that we could go on details, okay? But making it simple, we imagine that everything dissolves into light until there is nothing more that is infinite emptiness, empty of inherent existence, which means it is relative. It doesn't exist in an autonomous, independent way, and it is of great bliss, and I am such union of great bliss and emptiness. Okay? From within that state, then once again the world manifests, which is the process of rebirth, and we're able to perceive the universe around us, and then we imagine that we are in a beautiful environment. Then here each one can have your own creativity, but normally we are surrounded by beautiful mountains with snow and forests and lakes and rivers with many beautiful animals, and each part of nature, the sounds that they emanate is showing the path of Dharma. So the sounds are showing compassion and showing interdependence, and everything is actually showing the correct view of reality, and showing the path of compassion and love and equanimity. It's showing all of that, the sounds of nature and so on. And within that beautiful environment appears a lotus flower with a sun and a moon disk, on top of which appears a dot of light. It's a hum, white in color. And then this dot of light, white in color, they vibrate with the sound of hum. It manifests lights going to all directions. This light reaches every holy being, make offerings to them, reaches every sentient being, brings them peace and joy and helps them to get out of their own suffering. And then all the light come back, bringing all that positive energy and reabsorb into the dot of light, which am I. I am that dot of light. I manifest as that dot of light that vibrates with the sound of hum. And then as I receive back all that positive energy, I grow. And I manifest as a beam of light, white in color. Then once again, from the beam of light, light manifests, going to all the directions, making offerings again, helping sentient beings. And then the light reabsorbs back, and then I appear in an instant from the beam of light in the full aspect, with a body, with one face, 2 arms. I have holding Vajra in the right hand, holding a bell in the left hand. I am in a state of bliss. I realize the nature of reality. My body is perfectly balanced. My 5 chakras are perfectly balanced. I have a strong central channel. I imagine I am a Buddha. And someone may ask, and what do I need to do after that? Okay. A lot to do still. But this is what we call the part of self-generation. The next part of the practice, and self-healing is given most emphasis into that, is called the generation of the body mandala. Okay? Generally speaking, when we have any practice, Vajra Yogini, Tarachittamani, or any practice, for example, Tarachittamani, the practice is divided into, first there is the part of self-frontal generation, then there is the self-generation, then there is the generation of the body mandala, then mantra recitation, and then after there is the self-initiation. Okay. Similar to that here, we have first the self-generation, which is done in between this part. Okay. And in this image of self-healing, it is represented by the image of Vajrasattva. So the image of Vajrasattva, it represents 2 moments in the practice. It represents the Vajrasattva mantra and the process of purification and recognizing our own nature before we do the purification of the elements. Then after we do the purification of the elements, from a state of great bliss, everything dissolves into emptiness, and we allow ourselves to enter into this process of death within a state of great bliss and wisdom and emptiness. And from that state, we arise as Buddha Vajrasattva. Okay? And one particular thing which is difficult to see here because it's really small, but it's there, and you can see better on the other 5 images on the right side. It is the image is of the Buddhas, male Buddhas together with the female Buddhas, and they are embracing each other. Okay? And what is the meaning of that? Okay? And it's something that when we look right away, it doesn't appear right away to the mind. Okay? And if we use very direct language, we are not so much used to have in the altar an image of a couple having sexual intercourse. Or not? I don't know if you go to churches or somewhere else. It's a bit strange in a way. Okay? One of the reasons for that is that we have in our culture 3 main taboos. So the 3 main taboos that we have in our society is death, money, and sex. These are 3 taboos. Okay. So what is the meaning here? There is a big misunderstanding that this is showing that the sexual union is a way of spiritual development. And that's not at all what it's saying here. It's the whole thing, starting from the colors to the Buddhas and everything, are symbols, are metaphors. In the same way that when we come and we say, are the Buddhas humans? No, the Buddhas are much beyond humans. Why do we visualize as humans? Because that's what we are. Okay. Here, when we visualize the union, it is symbolizing non-duality. It's symbolizing the non-dual union of male and female energies. It's symbolizing the non-dual union of the part of logic and emotion. It's symbolizing the part of bliss and wisdom called emptiness. So it is actually symbolizing also the non-dual union of very subtle body and mind. Okay? Where the male symbolizes the body, the female symbolizes the mind, which in other terminology it is called the union of clear light and illusory body. Okay? This is like the more terminology used in tantric teachings. So we say, and basically what it means, illusory body and clear light. Illusory body is the very subtle body in a pure state, and clear light is the very subtle mind in a pure state. And the union of the very subtle body and mind in a pure state, that's the state of enlightenment, of Buddha, in its essence. And this is being represented by this aspect of this union. The other aspect is that if we look from a very human perspective, from our own life experience, from all the experiences that in a mundane level humans can have regarding well-being, regarding pleasure, what is the highest state of non-conceptual pleasure? It's the sexual pleasure. So it is a way of actually telling us that, look, the state of pleasure of a Buddha, it's something, imagine the highest state of orgasm of pleasure multiplied by millions of times. It goes much beyond, but sorry for you, the only sorry Buddhas tell to us human beings, sorry for you, the only thing you can understand is that where you reach, but it's much beyond that. It's not that, but that's the thing that you can get more near to it somehow, based on our own level of understanding of perception. Okay, so in a way, when we visualize ourselves, truly the clear aspect is not how physically I imagine myself, it's internally how I imagine myself. And we should imagine ourselves with a pure body in a state of bliss, in a state of harmony. Okay? And this sometimes it's represented in this way of the union of the male and female together. Okay? One of the, just to conclude this part, one of the big mistakes that sometimes I saw people commenting and thinking that because there is this aspect of the sexual union being used as a representation, as a symbol, and so on, some people think the sexual union, to practice sex, it's a way of practicing Tantra. And if it would be so, a lot of the world should have already been enlightened. Okay? It is not at all like that. Okay? So, we don't need to fall into that mistake. We need to be careful into that. So here we are talking about the union of the male and female into one. And one of the objectives is that we have a part of ourselves which is body, a part of ourselves which is mind. We have a part of ourselves which is the male and the female energy. It's called bliss. And then there's the part of emptiness. Bliss is the body, emptiness is the mind that perceives the nature of reality. And these two, they should come together like water and milk. When you mix the two and you cannot anymore discern one from the other. Okay, so this is being represented into that image also. Okay, I'm sorry if I may appear a little bit cryptic, but I'm trying to put a lot in a short word, few words, okay? But making it really, really simple, in this moment of the practice, we imagine ourselves in a pure state. And then we have our 5 chakras, and then from that we will connect again with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and develop that specific qualities. Okay? So, the more we have clarity about the meaning of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the stronger that symbols are for us, the more powerful is this aspect of the practice. So we see ourselves as being a Buddha, our body is clear, balanced, our mind is peaceful, joyful, we are in harmony, and then our 5 chakras are perfectly balanced. So here we focus on 5 main points of energy, which is the crown, throat, heart, navel, and secret chakra. Chakra means will. Is where the subtle energy channels come together. And it's represented as lotus flowers because each one of the petals represents one channel. And the center of the lotus represents what is called the central channel, which is the center of energy of our body. Okay? And all the practice actually happens mostly inside the central channel. Okay. One of the other characteristics of self-healing is that normally our attention is always outside. Most of the times our attention is in what we see, what we listen, we imagine things outside, it's mostly outside. In self-healing we are learning, training ourselves to bring our attention inside our central channel. And this is a way also to train ourselves to direct our own so-called subtle energy or prana in Sanskrit. Okay? So by visualizing, we direct the energy also. So we train to bring our attention inside. So we can divide the practice. First part, there is the preliminary practices, which we didn't talk about, and I'm not entering into that today. Otherwise, we would not talk about everything else. But the preliminary practices in this drawing is represented by the top part, okay, where we do normally the essence of the preliminary practices is in page 4 and page 5, where we take refuge, we generate the motivation, we request the blessings from the lineage, we request the blessings of Guru Buddha, we do the part which is called the practice of Guru Yoga. All of that is inside of this, okay? And the essence here, which is really important, is that at the very beginning of the practice, we should reflect upon why am I doing this? And if we have the time and the ability, it's really good to make a very, very short, at least, meditation on the 4 Noble Truths. Which is we put to ourselves 4 questions and we give ourselves 4 answers. The first question is, what is suffering? What do I want to avoid? And then if we go through in details, the answer is, it is not only the sensation of suffering, as long as my body and mind are polluted with mental defilements and karma, there will be suffering. So what I really want is to eliminate my mental defilements and karma, not to have anymore a body and mind which is polluted by mental defilements and karma, so-called all-pervasive suffering. Why do I suffer? Where is my suffering coming from? From external conditions or internal? It's coming from internal conditions, from ignorance, from hatred, from attachment. Oh, I truly want to be free from that. Is it possible truly to be happy? Because I am interdependent? because my mind is not something solid, but it's constantly changing and interacting. If I create the right interactions, yes, it's possible to eliminate anger and attachment and develop love and compassion and satisfaction and gradually arrive to develop altruism and wisdom and eliminate selfishness and ignorance. So it's possible to reach nirvana, to get out of suffering. Then, fourth question, how do I do it? I need to train myself in love, I need to train myself in compassion, in patience, in joy, in satisfaction, and ultimately in wisdom. And to do that, I need help. I need to receive blessings, I need to be guided, so I please ask Guru Buddha, please help me. I take refuge in the Guru and in the Buddha, please show me the path. I take refuge in the Dharma, the actual path to follow. I take refuge in the Sangha, the spiritual company during that path. Okay. And all of this is integrated in Locho Samvopagita Shipa, as we do the mantra of the Guru, or if we do the longer preliminary practices, this is the part where we do first refuge in the beginning. Okay. And then the second step is, okay, but is it enough just for me to get out of suffering? And we start looking around and seeing the suffering of others. And we allow ourselves to expand our feeling of love towards ourselves. We allow it to expand towards others. And we connect with others and we say, okay, the suffering of each and every one is as important as my own. The happiness of each and every one is as important as my own. I truly wish everyone to be happy and everyone to be free from suffering, just as I wish myself to be happy and to be free from suffering. And I will do anything possible for that to happen. And for that reason, I must develop my wisdom, I must develop my love, I must develop my capacities, because I cannot help others unless I am well myself. So because I want to help sentient beings, I must develop my qualities, and in order to do that, I will do the practice of NgalSo Self-Healing. And with that intention, then we start with the recitation. Okay? So this is the essence of the preliminary practices. Okay? When we do Locho Sampo, we connect with the holy beings. Because even though we are talking about symbols and about archetypes, we're also talking about wisdom beings. It has these two aspects. When I think about someone, I connect myself to that person. Okay. For example, here in front of you, there is the picture of Papungka Rinpoche and Trishan Rinpoche. Okay. When we see that picture, whom do we connect with? Those that have met Papungka Rinpoche, for example, or those that have met Trishan Rinpoche. By seeing the picture, you automatically think of whom? Of them. And your mind connects to them. If you have never met them and no one never explained anything, you just see a picture, say maybe one Lama, someone, but it's not so much possible to make the complete connection unless you are introduced to that being. When you see me now, you are seeing myself or you are seeing my body? What do you see? I see your body. Or even better, I see the image of your body. Okay? So, are you your body or you exist beyond that? So basically, when I see your body, when you see my body, this is like a bridge through which you connect to my being. Okay? So, the bridge is called the Vajrasattva. The bridge is called the commitment being, Vajrasattva. The actual being is called the wisdom being. And each one of us, you know, we are much more than body. So the actual being, my complete self, we could call it the wisdom being. So you connect to my wisdom being, to myself, through a bridge. This bridge can be my voice, can be my image, can be my name or my picture. And the same thing is for each and every one of you. And this happens automatically whenever we see the image of someone. Okay? So the image, the picture, the name, whatever, through which we connect to that wisdom being is called the commitment being or Samaya Sattva. So when we make the prayers in the beginning requesting the blessings of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, especially when we are doing this practice and you have received the transmission from an uninterrupted lineage, from someone that received it from Lama Gangchen, his name, his mantra, his image, all of that is like a bridge that connects to him. Independently of the fact of now where he is, in which form he is, and so on. Some people at one moment came very worried to me. I said, "Oh Lama, I have a really problem. Okay. I have some conflict inside." Yes, tell me. You know, on one side, I'm so happy that you have found Lama Gangchen Rinpoche's reincarnation. But how can I ask for his blessings now? He's just a small boy there. When I make my prayers, will he listen to me? Before, when I thought that he had no any more physical body, I could request his blessings and I felt his presence. And now what I do? Okay. It's a bit complex. But things exist on different levels. This is my perception. Okay. Like Lama Gangchen Rinpoche himself, he always continued to ask the blessings of his own Guru Kyabche Trichan Dorje Chang long after he passed away. Okay. And what happened is that independently of the fact of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche's reincarnation, Francesco Naropa, being where he is, how he is, when I connect knowing of him or not knowing of him, when I connect through the image of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, I would naturally connect to his essence. And here comes a mind-to-mind connection. When I think about someone, I connect to that being, and that other being perceives that. There is an exchange that happens, something that is difficult to put into words. More than to put into words, it's difficult to put within our own worldview, our paradigm. Okay? But when we think about someone, that person perceives that thought and often thinks back and we receive something. There is an exchange that happens from mind to mind. And the more a being is elevated, the more the being has a higher level of compassion and wisdom and awareness, the more is able to do this exchange. You know? Okay, we can talk about this, but there is one text which, if someone is interested, I can share it. But this is just in between self-healing, okay? Just it's not exactly connected to self-healing, but somehow yes. Because we are in the part of requesting the blessings of the Guru. There is one interview which was given by Kyabche Song Rinpoche in 1981, I think. And I found a thick book of some Westerner that went to India and made interview to many lamas. And inside of them, the really interesting one is the one of Song Rinpoche, which was one of the gurus of Lama Gangchen. And the interview is about the recognition of reincarnation of lamas, the Tulku system. And Song Rinpoche is so direct. I love him, the way how he would speak, like very clear to the point and very direct. And then he explains very clearly. He said, you know, there are some ones that are some recognized reincarnation, and as the word says, they are just someone that died. Then maybe he was a good practitioner. And then they recognize his reincarnation, and they spoil the little child, and you know, and then they destroy the practice that he has done in the previous life, because he's not able to continue that practice because he's too much spoiled in the other life. This was one of the examples that he was giving. Then he was giving the example of there are others which actually have high levels of realization, and then they are recognized, and then they continue to go on that path, and so on. And then he was explaining there are those that are what we call real tupus, are those that take rebirth out of full awareness, and that they basically being reborn in a physical body is a way of manifesting their essence in order to help others. And then he talked about Tepo Dorje Chang, if I remember correctly, one of his gurus. And he was saying, for example, this is a fully realized being. And Tepo Dorje Chang, one day he was in his house in the early morning, and then he was by himself laughing a lot. His attendant brought him tea, and he was just laughing and laughing. And then his attendant at one point asked, but what is there so much fun about? What is happening here? I said, oh, no, nothing. Come on, tell me, you know. Then I have two emanations of mine living in China, and they are beggars. And they finally got some nice food, and then the food was stolen by a dog, and he was laughing. And then he asked his master, how many emanations are there around? And he said, I need to meditate to answer you. So the next day, after meditation, he came and said, yeah, I checked. I could recognize around 200, but maybe there are more. What I want to say is that, how to say, each one of us is completely limited by our own capacity of perception and understanding. There are things that we can understand what we can understand. We can see what we can see. We cannot go beyond. What goes beyond our level of perception and understanding, the only possibility is to trust. There is no other possibility. In Tibetan, we divide phenomena into three types. There is Kokyur, Ngosum, Kokyur, and Shinto Kokyur. There is direct phenomena, which means all those things that we can perceive through our senses. No, we can all see this table, we can all listen to this sound of the bell. That's a direct phenomenon. Then there are indirect phenomena or hidden phenomena, which are things that we can only perceive through logic. We cannot perceive through our direct senses, and there are many different phenomena that we can perceive through logic. But if we go through correct reasoning, we can arrive at a correct perception and understanding. Then there is the extremely hidden phenomena. These are those phenomena that is not possible to comprehend and to perceive them, nor by direct senses or by logic. And these are the things that goes beyond our own paradigm. And here, what can we do? For example, one extremely hidden phenomenon: the thoughts of another person, the deep emotions of another person. I can more or less try to deduce what you are feeling, but I cannot truly experience it. I can only trust what you tell me. Okay? So when we have extremely hidden phenomena, basically we base ourselves on trust on others. Okay? And then when we come to the texts of Buddha and many other great masters, my personal experience is that everything which I can understand, it's incredibly coherent. Then there are some things there which it's way beyond my own capacity of comprehension and understanding. And some of them I put in the waiting list, and some of them I fully trust. But I trust basically because I trust the one that is telling me. Okay? And when we go through that sphere, there is a whole part of the way how a highly spiritually realized being can manifest into matter, which basically matter, the manifestation in a body, is a manifestation of consciousness. and how a highly realized consciousness can even manifest in more bodies at the same time. There are many explanations of these things. Okay. So when we connect to our Guru, such as Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, and we connect through him to all holy beings, and we request their blessings, they are not limited to one body. It's something that goes much beyond that. The good news is that if we understand or if we don't understand, it doesn't really make much difference as long as we connect. So what is not an extremely hidden phenomena is our own experience. So we can request for blessings, we can connect with trust and faith, and we see what we experience out of that. So the first part of the practice here, page 4 and 5, Locho Sampo, Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, that's the part in which we make this connection with the holy beings. That's the moment in which we request the blessings. That's the moment in which we entrust ourselves. And one of the very, very important things here is that we have the need to trust and be trusted. And when we are in front of our Guru, one of the most important aspects of our relationship with the Guru is trust. But it's not on one way, it's on two way. Because the only reason why Lama Gangchen Rinpoche taught all of this is because he had full trust in each one of us that we can make it. And we follow it because we have trust on him. There is this exchange. So there is a basis of trust, a basis of love. Okay. And this is the very beginning of the practice. And it's something that, how to say, it's fundamental in all Buddhist practice that on the basis of any meditation practice we do, on every philosophy, concept that we learn, actually there is a human connection. On the basis there is a human connection of trust and of love. This is on the very, very basic for it to work. And this is what we call having a lineage. This is what we call having the Guru. And this is something that is really, really important, okay? And this is something that as the time goes by, we will nourish it more and more. We will develop it more and more. But in the very beginning of the practice, that's when we connect to it. We connect with the motivation. Then after that, we connect with our own Guru, with Guru Buddha. We request the blessings. We trust ourselves. We feel trusted by Guru Buddha. And there is this feeling of reciprocal trust and love. And that's really, really important at the very beginning of the practice, okay? And this is something that the more we go along, the more clear it becomes. Okay? And if you look into this image, no? At the very top, there is Borobudur, there is Buddha in the center, then there is Lama Gangchen. This tanka was painted many, many years ago, and Rinpoche drew on the other side. He said that this was supposed to be me. And basically, at the time, I was, I think, 12 or 11 or something like that. And at the time, Rinpoche said, we don't know, and there is no any need for Lama to follow the monastic way of Lama. So he put his normal clothes in that painting. That's the meaning, which means showing lineage. Okay. Why Borobudur? Lama Gangchen Rinpoche was not a person or a master that would do things following a very strong logical procedure. You know, Rinpoche was not like following things from a very conceptual basis. The most strong part was his intuition. It was very strong the way how he manifested to that. And Rinpoche had an immense love and wisdom. And his love was that when he would see others, he was able truly to see others. And based on that, to adapt to their needs. So when Rinpoche came to the Western world, he saw clearly that the way how he received the teachings and how he received the meditation techniques and so on were not anymore suitable for the context in which he was. He said, I need to find a different way. And then when he was, first time he went to Borobudur, which was in 87, something like that. He had a very strong connection, 89 maybe, something there, I don't remember the year precisely.
I think 89.
89 possibly. And then after that, when he went again there, Rinpoche had a very strong vision when he was in Borobudur. And one time Rinpoche told me, you know, my experience, I cannot really tell it so much, because otherwise people will say I am crazy. You know? And he said, I have different visions and so on. But out of that experience that came in Borobudur, that's where the practice of self-healing was born. And he explains in Self-Healing number 2 in the book, he says, this is a terma, a mind terma of Trobulotsawa. Okay, translation. When we die, what is deeply imprinted in our mind continues from life to life. Okay. Terma means a hidden treasure. Okay. So, Trobulotsawa was a previous incarnation of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche that lived in Tibet. And Rinpoche said that he created the practice of self-healing, of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. But at that time, it was too modern for the people at the time. So he didn't really teach it. So what happened was that few lives after, the conditions were ripened. And Rinpoche, he was saying is that by going to Borobudur was like a key that made him access this hidden treasure, which was there since many lifetimes. And then he was able to materialize it and share it with us. Okay? This is what Rinpoche explained. Now, some people may believe, some people may not believe. It doesn't make much difference. You know, the practice, it remains in the same way, very adapted to our reality, very powerful on many levels, and so on. But the explanation that Rinpoche gave was this. Okay? And all of this came through this very profound experience in Borobudur in Indonesia. And the mandala of Borobudur, it's actually precise the mandala of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. It's like exactly the practice of self-healing. And the practice of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas of self-healing, from whatever perspective we look, it's like the essence of all the different practices of Vajrayana meditation. You know, we can take Vajrayogini, Heruka, Kalachakra, Yamantaka, and Metalachtamani, and many others. They all, and if we go to the essence, it all comes to the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and the 5 great mothers. Okay. So in this drawing, the reason why we have Borobudur is that there is a long lineage and there is a short lineage on every practice. So when there is a meditation technique, there is a long lineage, in Tibetan it's called Ringyu, which means I received this meditation technique from my master, that we received from his master, that received from his master, and like this we go on and on until we reach Buddha Shakyamuni. A short lineage means a specific way of a certain meditation practice which has its own lineage, but that way of teaching, that way of meditating is new, and it comes from a direct experience of some realized practitioner. For example, the practice of Tarachittamani. It has its own long lineage, going backwards until Buddha Shakyamuni, basically. But it has also its short lineage, or near lineage, which comes from Tabuk Dorje Chang, that had a direct perception, he had a direct view of Tarachittamani, and then Green Tara gave him these explanations and gave him this form of meditation, which he translated and materialized into the sadhana, and he taught his disciples which to do the practice of Tarachittamani, which, by the way, is very similar to self-healing. Rinpoche received this practice to his visions in Borobudur. So the near lineage comes from Borobudur. Okay, that's why even Rinpoche said, one commitment to all my disciples in one lifetime, at least one time need to go to Borobudur. Okay, we used to go before every year. Then nowadays, then there was COVID in between, or before COVID, there were other problems, traveling, whatever. Then we went again last time in 2018, correct? 19? 20 we went?
Yeah, even.
Okay.
Start of COVID. Yeah.
So we went in 2020, then Rinpoche couldn't go. Okay. And the truth is that nowadays I really want to go back, but the practical conditions have changed so much that it's quite difficult to go there with a big group. Because they block the number of people that can go every day. It becomes quite expensive. You can only go, apparently, you need to pay around $50 and you can only stay 2 hours. It's completely different from what we did all these years before. But still, I have the commitment to go back there, and we find our way to go back. But on an individual level, it's very easy to go. To go with a big group is very difficult. So someone can say, someone told me, oh Lama, why don't you go with a small group? Because who is part of the group and who is not part of the group? I'm not the one to decide, you know. So based on that, I prefer not to go, okay, than to choose 10 people and then go, because I think it's not so nice. So our near lineage is coming from Borobudur, and everyone that had the opportunity to go to Borobudur and to do the practice there, I think have had a very strong experience. And this is something that in the future we should continue and go back, and from these holy places we have particular qualities also. So anyhow, that's why in the painting we have Borobudur at the head. And the painting, the way how it goes like this. Then we go like this, then we go here, and then after here we go here, and then here, then here, then here, and we end up in the same place. Same place where we start. The way of reading the painting is we start from here, taking the blessings of the lineage. Then we go down where we have Vajrasattva purification, element purification, self-generation as Vajrasattva. Generation of the lotus and the 6 syllables, transforms into the symbols, transforms into the Buddhas, symbolizing our qualities developed to their maximum potentials. Then we go to the completion stage, in which we developed the deep identity of oneself as being each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Then we go to the upper corner, Vajra Master Empowerment, where we become the union of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Then we go on a more deeper level, on a subtle level, when we have secret empowerment of male energy, white bodhicitta, female energy, red bodhicitta, wisdom empowerment, union of white and red bodhicitta, male and female energy, bringing ourselves to a deeper state of consciousness. Then we go back to the center where there is the image of Rinpoche, and apparently me, with a hand in the heart, going back to what we call the word empowerment and final dedications. Okay? So this is the practice being represented in this painting. Okay? So actually, if we know how to read this painting, we don't need this booklet anymore. Okay? It's the same thing. What we have here and what we have here is the same thing. But here we have words written and here we have just symbols drawn. But the meaning is the same. Okay? So, just one thing before we stop is that the practice of self-healing is a, how to say, a tool of familiarization of ourselves with our qualities, in which we go through a sort of inner experience, in which we disconnect momentarily from our own ordinary identity, and we will connect ourselves with the qualities. Okay? And then we do this, we identify ourselves with all the qualities of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, until we develop that qualities in the maximum potential. And then we bring that full awareness from a gross level to a more subtle and very subtle level. So basically the idea here is to develop a pure identity, to recognize ourselves within our qualities, to identify ourselves with love, with wisdom, with generosity, with the power of realization, with courage, with satisfaction, and so on. So we identify ourselves with all that the 5 Dhyani Buddhas mean. Then we take that identity of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we bring them into one. I am the union of that 5. And then we bring that full identity and awareness from a gross level to a more deeper level of consciousness, until it goes to a very deeper level of consciousness. And from that state, then we appear once again into this world with our normal perception of the world, but transformed. Okay. So, I wanted today to give some inputs of some parts of the practice. Okay. And the beautiful thing is that self-healing is quite simple, but yet very profound and very complex. If we want to make it simple, we can make it really simple. If we want to make it complex, we can stay days and days and days talking about it and finding and explaining details and so on. But, and this is one of the key points. When I showed self-healing to one of my gurus in Tibet, which has been NgalSo Rinpoche, David of Tashilumpo in Tibet, he was so amazed by it, and he was in Tibet one of the most respected masters in the recent times. And he said, but you know, it's amazing because it is suitable for the beginner and for the advanced practitioner. And then he said to me, if you need to practice, that's what you need. Everything is there. You don't need anything more. And due to Lama Gangchen's kindness and compassion and wisdom, he was able to give us something, and also courage. Because I haven't seen many masters that were able to adapt the methods to the modern times, to our needs nowadays. Because many often, maybe, they have been afraid of judgment. In the very beginning, Lama Gangchen was strongly judged by some. Even there was like one Lama that strongly opposed Rinpoche. Saying, oh, what are you doing? You are changing the form and this and that, and really opposed very strongly. Then one day he actually was able to see what was self-healing better and understand it better. And then this other Lama came in front of one Lama which was like more important than both of them together. Someone that was from generation-wise elder, which was Lati Rinpoche. And then in front of Lati Rinpoche, he went with a gift for Gangchen Rinpoche and said, I'm sorry, I said wrong things, I understood it wrong. Actually, I praise what you do. It was my mistake. You know, and this is beautiful because anyone can speak their mind, but it's also important to be able to acknowledge their own mistakes. No? So, and anyone that looked into self-healing clearly, I only saw them praising self-healing. Even in the beginning, maybe some of them were a bit critical, but when you look into the essence, there's nothing, it's perfect. And it's much more easy to practice than many other sadhanas. But I don't know why, sometimes we like complicated things, and we want to do things that are very far away from us, and we may get a little bit lost. When we have a clear map, a clear pathway, and everything is there in self-healing for us. Truly. Okay? So what we will do now is we make a break, and then after that we will have the tzok offering. Okay? And then just before we do the tzok, we do a very short practice of self-healing. Tomorrow in the morning when we start, we do the longer version of self-healing. Okay? Together. And then today we do a short version of self-healing after dinner. Okay? So, and then we will do the tzok offering together. Okay?
Yes.
This is more or less what we had in the program, right?
Yes, there's not really a dinner, but a short break. But we prepared some bread with cheese, just to.
And that's Dutch dinner.
Yeah. Okay.
In Miranda.
Okay?
Good.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chin am katrin le chokchur kirpada losanten bedrume sasumgi drove munsel taktu ne gyuruchi nimo delek sendele nime kuyan delek shi nitsen taktu delek pe kuncho sumgi jingilo kuncho sumgi modrup sol Kuncho sumgi tashi sho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Dutch?
Bij zonsopgang en zonsondergang, bij nacht of middag, mogen de drie juwelen ons hun zegeningen schenken. Mogen zij ons helpen alle realisaties te verwerven en het pad van ons leven besproeien met variërende tekens van voorspoed.
German.
Bei so einer aufkommenden Abenddämmerung, nachts oder mittags, mögen die drei Juwelen uns den Segen gewähren, mögen sie uns helfen, alle Verwicklungen zu erlangen und unsere Lebensweg mit verschiedensten Siegenzeichen besprengen.
So we make a short break, okay, and then we come back.
Even een verzoekje of iedereen zijn eigen kopje in de vaatwasser wil zetten, want er zijn een gebrek aan vrijwilligers op dit moment.
Ik denk 20 minuutjes. 20 minuutjes.
Leuk om dat plaatje zo uit te gaan. Ik zat even te kijken.